He never meant to hold on to it for so long. When Ken first tucked that small, slightly crumpled photograph into the back slot of his worn leather wallet, he told himself it was temporary, just until the pain eased, just until the memories stopped hurting quite so much. But the pain never really did. And the photo stayed. It had been taken on a rainy Sunday afternoon in the fall of 2018. They had just wrapped up a long shoot together, both exhausted, drenched from a sudden downpour, but laughing like kids. Demet was holding a cup of tea in both hands, hair still damp, eyes shining, cheeks pink from the cold. Ken had snapped it without her noticing, catching her in that exact moment where she looked happiest, most real. That photo became something he couldn't throw away, not because of what it showed, but because of what it made him feel every time he saw it. He never showed it to anyone. Not even his closest friends. Not even when he was in other relationships. Especially not then. It was too personal. Too raw. Too sacred. And as the years passed and people assumed he had moved on, Ken kept that memory tucked close to his heart, hidden behind credit cards and receipts, worn at the corners but untouched by time in his mind. There were days he forgot it was there. Long stretches, even. He'd open his wallet to pay for something, or take out an ID at the airport, and it wouldn't cross his mind. But then, suddenly, it would. One glimpse. One accidental tug at the corner of the photo. And the weight of everything he had buried came rushing back. They had been magic. At least, that's how Kim remembered it. And maybe memory is a liar, romanticizing the past, exaggerating what once was, but he was certain that what he had with Demet had been real. Maybe not perfect. Maybe not meant to last forever. But undeniably real. They had shared stolen glances when the cameras weren't rolling, conversations that went on long after everyone else had gone home, and laughter that came too easily to be acted. There was always something electric between them, something unspoken but powerful. Everyone on set saw it. The fans felt it. But only they knew what it truly meant. And then, it ended. Not with a fight. Not even with a clear goodbye. Just a slow fading, like the last light of a sunset. Schedules got busier. Calls became shorter. The connection that once felt unbreakable began to feel fragile. Ken had always thought he'd fight harder to keep her close, but when the distance grew, he didn't. Neither did she. They drifted. Quietly. Painfully. He never deleted her number. He never unfollowed her on social media. He liked her posts, sometimes, when he knew it wouldn't draw too much attention. And once or twice, during particularly quiet nights, he typed out a message just to delete it before hitting send. What would he even say? I still think about you? I kept your photo in my wallet? It all sounded pathetic. Desperate. And Yaman wasn't supposed to be either of those things. But the truth was, despite the world seeing him as a confident, globe-trotting star, there were nights when he lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if she still thought of him too. If she had kept anything. If there was a single item, an old shirt, a ticket stub, a note, that she ever came across and smiled at the memory of them. One night in Rome, after a long day of shooting, Ken found himself alone in his hotel room. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy. He ordered room service, sat by the window with a glass of wine, and pulled out his wallet. The photo was still there. Slightly more worn than he remembered. The edges frayed. A crease beginning to cut across her smile. He stared at it for a long time. And then he did something he hadn't done in years. He spoke to it. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have told you how much you meant. I should have fought harder. The words hung in the air, soft and sincere. He knew she'd never hear them. But saying them, even just to her photo, felt like something. That night, he dreamt of her. Not the celebrity. Not the actress. Just Demet, the girl who laughed too loud, who once danced barefoot in his kitchen, who leaned her head on his shoulder during long drives and never said a word. And when he woke, the ache in his chest was deeper than ever. The next morning, Ken stood in front of the mirror with the photo still in his hand. For a long time, he just looked at himself. The man staring back had aged, matured, become a symbol of strength and masculinity for millions, but inside, there was still that 2018 version of him, the one who wasn't afraid to love wildly and deeply. The one who had loved her. He placed the photo back into his wallet, not out of habit, but choice. It was no longer just a memory. It was a piece of himself. A reminder of who he had been, and maybe, who he still was. Over the next weeks, something shifted in him. Not dramatically. He still worked, smiled, traveled, did interviews, laughed with friends. But somewhere deep inside, he had begun to reconsider everything, what he valued, who he missed, what he had let go of too easily. Demet's name came up more often now in his thoughts. He began rewatching scenes from their old series, not for the nostalgia, but to study them, frame by frame. Her eyes told 1,000 things in silence. Had he missed signs? Had she tried to say something between the lines they were given? One night, after a shoot in Madrid, he found himself scrolling through her Instagram again. Not in the usual casual way. This time, with intention. He tapped on an old post, a photo from a beach, taken nearly 2 years ago. She hadn't tagged the location. But he recognized it. It was a place they had once talked about visiting together. They never did. But she had gone. Alone? With someone else? He'd never know. But in that moment, something clicked in him. Not jealousy. Not regret. Something else. A need for closure, or maybe not even closure, just truth. He wanted to know if what he had held onto for all these years had meant anything to her. Or if he had been the only one keeping their past alive in a wallet-sized photograph. The fear of reaching out had always been tied to what the answer might be. What if she had forgotten? What if she had moved on completely? But then again, what if she hadn't? So, one night, with his heart thudding, he opened her chat. The last message between them was over a year old. Just a simple congrats she had sent after one of his awards. He had replied with a thumbs up and a hope you're doing well. Nothing more. Nothing real. But now, he typed, I found the photo I took of you in 2018. You were holding tea, and your hair was still wet from the rain. I never deleted it. It's been in my wallet all this time. He stared at the blinking cursor. Then added, I thought you should know. He didn't hit send. Not yet. He got up, paced the room. Sat back down. His thumb hovered. And then, click. Sent. The silence that followed was deafening. He waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. He placed his phone down and tried to sleep, but sleep was a faraway country that night. Every time it buzzed, he jumped. But it was never her. Until it was. 2:14 a.m. One message. He opened it with trembling hands. You still have that? Just 5 words. But they meant everything. He typed back immediately, yes. Always. Another pause. Then her reply, I kept something too. His chest tightened. He sat up straighter. What? He wrote. And then came a photo. A folded piece of paper, slightly yellowed at the edges. His handwriting. It was a note he had written to her during a long shooting day, just something silly. He'd left it in her script binder. A small doodle and the words. We'll always find our way back. She had kept it. Can's eyes burned. For a long moment, he couldn't type. There was too much. Too many emotions rushing through all at once. Relief. Hope. Guilt. Longing. I didn't know you kept that. Her reply came instantly. I didn't know you kept me. And just like that, the years between them evaporated. They began to talk. Really talk. Not every conversation was easy. There were silences. Questions. Laughter. Tears. But it was real. More real than anything either of them had felt in years. Over the next few months, they met. Quietly. Away from cameras, away from noise. Just the two of them. At a small seaside cafe in Bodrum, Ken took out his wallet, placed the photo on the table between them. Demet stared at it, her eyes misty. "I don't even remember you taking this," she whispered. "You didn't see me," he said. "But I couldn't look away." She smiled then. Not the practiced smile for cameras. A soft, grateful smile. "You never stopped, did you?" He shook his head. "No. I never did." She reached into her own bag, pulled out a small envelope. Inside was his note, the original. She handed it to him. "You told me we'd find our way back. I didn't believe it then." "And now?" he asked. "I do." They didn't rush anything. Life had made them cautious. Wiser. But also softer. More open. Sometimes, late at night, Ken would still pull out the photo, not because he needed to hold on to the past anymore, but because it reminded him how far they'd come. How love, real love, doesn't always end with the last goodbye. Sometimes it waits. Quietly. Patiently. In the corner of his wallet, the picture still lived. But now, it was joined by something new, a small handwritten note from Demet, folded neatly. It read, "I was always with you. Even when I wasn't." And this time, he knew he wasn't the only one holding on.